Hello, and welcome to another Cloud Podcast, a podcast designed to bring you stories from the smartest minds in IT, operations, and business, and learn how they're using cloud technology to improve business and the customer experience. All right, well, welcome to another Cloud Podcast. Today, we're excited to bring you Brad Buchser. He is the Director of IT over at High Tech High, located in San Diego. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Good to have you here. And Dustin, my co-pilot, my partner in crime, good to have you here, buddy.
Super excited to be here. Thanks for the invite again.
Absolutely. So Brad, what we like to do at the beginning is just give the audience and the people watching an idea of, your career path, how you got into IT. It's a little bit different for everybody, and how you ended up at High Tech High and what you guys are doing over there, and a little bit about the school would be great. So why don't you just take 3-5 minutes or so and just give us a little background on how you got here.
Okay. Well, I got into IT when I was in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years, and I went into the communications field. And as I moved along in my career and went to different units, one of the units I went to needed an IT person, and since I was in communications, they automatically expected, oh, computers. So I was appointed the computer IT expert, and from there I got more and more training. And throughout my career, I went to different duty stations where I was able to use the skills I've learned. After the Marine Corps, I got out and started working in education, IT and education. I was the director for a private school for 11 years. And then after that, we actually moved overseas and did some consulting and remote work for about 2.5 years. After coming back from overseas, I lived in Spain and Europe for a while. I was looking for a new position, and there was one here at High Tech High that came available. And the High Tech High, their philosophy and the way they do things here, I really believed in how they approach education in a project-based learning and the equity they like to bring to the classroom, to the students, and to the staff. So I've been here at High Tech High for 3 years, going on my 4th. And like you said, I'm one of the IT directors. We have 16 schools in the High Tech High charter, and I'm the director of 3. So High Tech High Media Arts, High Tech Middle Media Arts, and High Tech Elementary Explorer. So that's my those are the schools I manage.
And for those people that haven't heard of High Tech High, can you tell us just a little bit about that? And it sounds like a great fit for you, but what was it that drew you to them?
Well, High Tech High is a charter school based in San Diego. We have locations throughout the county. What drew me to High Tech High is, like I said, the project-based learning approach to education. Our students work in teams, and they work across educational disciplines for overall projects where they combine math and science and English into one project. And they work on this throughout the semester and throughout the year. And then all the work they put into that, they present this project called to the community, to the students, to the parents, and we have a big presentation once or twice a year where they show everything they've learned and the projects they've done. And if you check out the website, you can see some of the projects they do. Like the middle school builds hovercrafts, and we have different engineering and different things that they do. It's really amazing how they do it all the way from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade.
That's amazing. I think I can hear some of the kids in the background just to be but
yes, I'm actually in the elementary school office, and it's right by the playground. And
I love it. Well, it's really interesting because you think about, what project-based learning is essentially equipping them exactly for what life in the real world is going to be like, right? There's IT project, there's all sorts of projects that they're going to be doing throughout life. And it's such a better way, tactical way of learning and educating. And you've been in education for like 14 or 12 or 14 years now. So you really get to see the differences on the different styles of teaching and learnings. How has it been on the education side working in IT, and like some of the challenges that you face that maybe some other IT executives don't face because they're not in the education space?
I think one of the major challenges is being able to provide equity in technology. Some students, depending on where they live or their family income, or they have less opportunities or less technology available to them. And I think being able to create, I think we do this as a school as a whole, not just as IT, is be able to create where all the students have equal opportunity to participate in class, participate in the online activities, and providing them with the equipment or the technology that they need. Especially after, of course, after the pandemic. Well, we're still in it, I think, but after everyone was at distance learning, that was the biggest challenge, making sure all our students had a device, making sure the students who didn't have internet connectivity were able to get that so they can complete their work, because that was a big challenge for, I know, a lot of schools, and that was something that we faced as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we've seen is just the huge gap, the technology gap between the lower income families and the ones that, you know, can't afford to just go out and buy a Chromebook at Best Buy. And the pandemic really shined a bright spotlight on that problem that's out there. I know we've talked about human IT and like what they're doing with their goal of, you know, shrinking that divide, that technology divide between the lower incomes and, you know, higher income families. And it's a struggle, and I don't think people really knew exactly how big that struggle was. As far as, you know, I love the background of the military background. We've talked to some other IT executives that have had a military background as well. What would you say are like 2 or 3 things that you think you've gleaned from the military that has helped you in your career as an IT executive?
I think organization, discipline, and structure, you get a lot of that from the military. And I don't know, I think across my career and while I was in the military and and working in education, I think it's really important that a lot of IT professionals don't try to develop or don't work on as the soft skills. We need to be able to, I know for me, I know that it's very important that if someone's coming to me for help, or I'm trying to support someone, that I'm supporting them in a way that makes them feel like they can understand what I'm talking about, not trying to I don't know if it's even the word, over techify the answer. But I think one of the things that I try to do here, and the people I work with, we really put a personal approach to support and providing IT for people, and not making people feel uncomfortable or feel like, oh, like they're bothering someone in the IT team that's like, oh, this is a dumb question, or this might be stupid, but it's like everyone's at different levels. We have these educators with master's degrees and doctorates in education, and they have, you know, technology is not their strong suit, but that's something that we can do to provide that support. I think that's one of my favorite parts of being in IT, is like supporting others and breaking things down in a way that it's easy to understand. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Thank you for your service. I could definitely use some more discipline and structure in my life. I don't think the military wants me at this point. I love how you highlighted soft skills. I have been working with IT folks for like 20 years now, and I don't know if I've ever heard an IT person say the word soft skills. I've heard it like from, you know, up front at a seminar, but I love how you have focused on that. Is that something that just you personally focus on, or is that something that the whole organization focuses on?
I think the IT team throughout this organization focus on that. I believe that we have a good team here, and a lot of things I hear from the other people in IT is that, you know, everyone believes in the mission of the school, and we want to do whatever we can to help our teachers do the amazing work that they're doing with all these projects and supporting these students. So it feels like a privilege to be in this kind of environment and creating and helping them bring their ideas to life. Because some of them could, you know, can I do this? Is this possible? And we have to, in IT, a lot of it has to do with technology or something that they want to do online, and we have to try and figure it out. Because I mean, to me, IT is like this puzzle, and you got all these little pieces, and you got to figure out how to put it together. And you know, once you figure out a solution, it's like, yes, I mean, it feels like very satisfying to me. That's why I enjoy it so much, and I've done it for so long. It's just the challenge. You're always learning something new. You're figuring out new ways and better ways to do things. It's just, yeah.
What would you say? I love that, because a lot of people that are in their jobs can't stand their jobs, or they haven't bought into the mission, or like they don't get the feel good, right, of doing something good that their school is doing or that their company is doing, that and they can go home like with their head high. What would you, so you have 16 schools, you manage 3, so there's how, like 3, maybe 4 other IT executives such as yourself. What are some of the challenges that you have between managing your 3 schools and the other schools, and maybe one teacher group says, hey, we found this app, that would be great, but then the other schools maybe don't want to adopt it? Or is there any of that a shadow IT, or just too many disparate systems? Or what are some of the challenges of just having that many different silos, I'd say?
I think we've worked really hard to centralize things. I know in the past that's high tech, high developed. Like each school had their own server, each school had their own, you know, architecture and different things, but we've managed to pull all that together through our network and through our systems. We are a Google school, so that helps bring all of the email and all of the, you know, data storage and things into a central location. Online, we have policies in place where we try to do things the same across the school, because as teachers throughout the organization move, like they'll be at this school one year, then they'll move up to the North County location, but nothing changes. Like we can take our laptops, you can go from here to North County or to another school, and you know, the Wi-Fi is the same, the internet's the same, everything's seamless in that way. And I think that we've done a good job at that. And as far as the challenges, I don't know. I mean, I think one of the challenges we might be facing now is just having a centralized place for documentation as far as the IT team is. Like, I ran into this issue, like a centralized help desk. We don't really have, I think that's where we need to improve. A centralized help desk where all of our tickets go into the same place, and we all can see other solutions. We can all see different problems, or we can support the other locations in that way if we have some information. So I think that's the biggest challenge right now.
Interesting. So what does the IT structure look like, and where do you guys fit within the organization? So there's a handful of folks at other schools. Who do you guys report up to, and where does that fit within the organization?
So here's how it works. So as far as IT, we have our CTO, and then we have senior IT directors. And then at each school, we have IT directors, and then we also have system managers. So it's like a structure like that, but we're pretty much all doing the same thing. Like as far as IT director for my 3 schools, I do more of the budgeting and purchasing and things like that. But as far as like the technical work, we pretty much do the same things. We report, each school has a director. So instead of a principal, each school has a director. And instead of a vice principal, each school has a dean. So in my schools, I report to my directors of each school. And then I also report to the CTO. So that's how the structure would go. And then we have a system manager here that works with me, and then we report the same way. So it's basically, that's the way. So I'm the IT director, but I report to my school directors.
Gotcha. So I want to dig in a little bit to around security. I know when the pandemic hit and everyone's moving to Zoom calls, and you hear about, certain classes getting hacked and things like that, where people are jumping into different units. Like how has security played a role with the school over the 11 years that you've been there, and how you kind of look at it moving forward? Because I know it's changed, it's evolving. It's always an evolving subject and framework. But how do you guys look at that, and what changes do you see happening, or you guys are making to get ahead of it?
Well, as far as security, I mean like online security and like network and system security.
Yeah.
We have a data center here where we have everything runs through the data center, and security is centralized in there. And as far as user security, we restrict our networks to based on groups that they're set in through Active Directory. We place our users, like if you're faculty or you're a student or you're staff, you're in different groups throughout the network, and then those groups have different rights or securities based on their job role or their title.
Totally makes sense. And are you guys, so I'm really interested in how you guys go about procuring new technology, because it sounds like that's part of your role, and that you do that for the whole entire school system. Is that right? I mean, when you're procuring new technology, you're not doing that just for your 3 locations or 3 schools. You're doing that for all 16 locations. Tell us how that looks and how that works, just so we get a sense of how that works at your school.
You broke up a little bit there when you were asking the question, but I think what you said is how do we procure the systems for the whole organization?
Yeah. And are you in charge of that, or is that?
I am not in charge of that. We work with the CTO, and as IT directors, we work together to recommend or talk about new systems. So that's basically how that goes. And then they would make the final decision in that area. Now, as far as like user level technology, I purchase for my schools. I make the decisions on like what type of Chromebooks we'll use here, or the access points, we work together throughout the schools to use the same type of access points. We use Cisco switching and routing here. So those are done at a different level. And we work together to come up with the recommendations for how to support our schools. But overall, it's like throughout the school, I'm not ultimately in charge of that purchasing at this time now.
Sure. And how does that look? Kind of a follow-up question to that. How does that look if there's a new application that a teacher or your director, principal, brings to your attention? Hey, listen, I would love to be using this next year. What does that look like to get that socialized with? Do you just take that directly to the CTO? Do you bring that to your peers? How do you guys kind of like suss out and evaluate those technologies?
It has to meet the standards for, COPA, HIPAA security centers to keep our students safe. And as long as they have their privacy policies and they protect user data, that's the first thing we look for. So what I do is I look towards that. I said, are our students going to be, or having this on our network, is that going to be safe for our network or be safe for our users? And then at that point, I speak with the CTO, or we come together as a team and say, is anyone else using this? Or is this something that you think you could use at your school? And then we make a decision based off of that. We use the basic systems. We have Adobe and Microsoft, and use all the Google apps. And there's like Power School is the way we manage our students. So, and those have been in place since I've been here. There hasn't really been any new systems that we've brought in, the newest system we brought in is called Mosel, and it's it's an MDM for our Macs and our iPads and our Apple devices. So we manage all of those in the cloud. We were managing them on site, but now we've moved all of that iOS and iOS X management into the cloud. So that was something we've done recently.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of clients that take, whether it's mobile devices or the iPads, and where you can add on the MDM and have another company outsource that management of it, because it can definitely be a heavy lift when support calls come in, things like that, or just pushing out a certain app across all the devices all at once, right? Otherwise,
we do that all the time, and also setting up our devices. Like we have our security profiles and our images in the cloud. And as we connect the new device to the network and it pushes out everything we need, we put in a few, we add the local administrator, and then it's done. You know how long it takes to set up a computer from start to finish, adding it to the network, adding the users, adding the applications, adding all the rights and security parameters for each device. And that can get tough if you're doing it one by one. But MDM has been really great for us.
Yeah, and it's not easy, because in your line of work, you have students exiting out every year, and you have new students coming in every year. So it's that constant cycle of having to upload new and get rid of the old ones. And I'm curious just about the management of all the inventory. Because you are, if you're giving out Chromebooks, you're giving out devices to students, kids. I know how my kids treat devices. Like, how's that work? And what are the challenges just around having teenagers manage all these devices?
That is a challenge. Now, as far as how we manage our inventories, we use a system called GLPI, and what that does is we put an agent on the computers, and when we add it to the network, the agent runs, and then we can upload it to this system. As far as during distance learning was really tough, because we have all Chromebooks, and then we were usually Chromebooks would stay on campus. So all of our Chromebooks work here on campus. So they're set up in a way that if they leave campus, they're not going to work. I mean, they'll turn on, but you can't log into it. You can't do anything with it. When we were in distance learning, we had to set up rules for our Chromebooks to allow them to work off campus. So that was one of the challenges that we got that figured out pretty quickly, but students would take their devices and, well, I can't log in, I can't connect to the internet, and then we'd have to fix that. As far as students handling our Chromebooks, they're not as delicate as we would like them to be, of course. So a challenge we have there is, repairing. We do all repairs here. So we have to buy parts and do repairs, and our IT team isn't that large. So sometimes we get to a point where we have a box of Chromebooks that still need repair. So that has been a challenge. What I have done is there's always students interested in IT. I have a group of 3 students that I've known them since the middle school, and they've come up to the high school, and they've learned how to fix Chromebooks. So they come in. We have these classes called X blocks. It's like an elective, and it's these fun classes. It's things that teachers like to do, and they offer it to students. And I offer an IT team X block, where I have these students that come twice a week for an hour, and they come in and I say, hey, work on this, do this. And that's how we get some of that stuff done. So it's really good. They're learning, and then also they're helping me. So it's a win-win right there.
It's free labor.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you're leveraging those resources. Hopefully they're not all in the same grade, and you won't lose them all in the same year.
Yeah, this is tough. I have 1 senior and 2 juniors. So
so you got to start backfilling. Start talking to the directors to find some junior high kids that are interested in IT.
Exactly.
Put up wanted little signs around campus. Get some new blood in there.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wondering, how do you guys handle access to the internet and then connecting your 16 sites as of today? What does that look like? Do you guys have redundancy? Just walk us through at a high level what that looks like for a school of your size.
Well, our provider is Cox Communications, and we have redundancy built in. Our CTO that was here prior, he built redundancy, and so we have multiple connections between sites. Like Chula Vista is south of us, and if, for example, say they lose their connection, we have multiple ways for them to connect to the internet. So if we lose a connection here, there's another way that the Cox communication lines route through, so it would pick up that connection, so they wouldn't be cut off from the other schools. And like I said, we have a data center here that we run everything through here. This is Point Loma. This is where we have the most schools. And then we have other locations. We have 3 other locations south and north of us. And there's a internet connectivity redundancy built so that these sites don't go down. If we lose a connection here, they're still going to have connectivity up there.
Right. So Cox has built out a private network for you guys with multiple ELANs to fail over to each other and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's the nice part about having locations all in one cable territory, is that a company like Cox, they can come in there and build that out for you. We saw that a lot up in Orange County where Spectrum Time Warner is, and how they're able to get a lot more infrastructure in the ground because they've been there forever.
Yeah, so we're lucky in that aspect. I mean, last year I believe it was before the pandemic, we had some issues with that, but the redundancy kicked in and it was able to bring us back up rather quickly.
How about we talked a lot about the pandemic, and I know everyone's trying to get their minds off of it for the most part, like move past it. But I think with the students, it brings up my other thought was and we brought up Cox. Do you know if they're doing any sort of programs for families that couldn't afford internet, or bringing in internet connectivity to help students like we were talking about?
They were running specials where they were providing internet for like $10 a month. It was Cox, Time Warner. We set up a partnership with an organization called Mobile Citizen, and they would give us hotspots that we would use, and we would pay for the device. I think we paid like $225, and then the student would get like 25 gigs a month, and every month that would roll over, and we would give that device for them to use when they were at home. Because some families can't even, they couldn't get the Cox set up, or they couldn't get Time Warner set up, and it was relatively cheap, and there was even like 3 months free and those kind of things. But
cool.
Even in that case, it was difficult for some.
Yeah, I mean, especially when families are on unemployment or they're out of a job, $10 a month is $10 a month still, right? When they're on a very limited budget.
Yeah. My mother's in the school system up in Northern California, and they ran into this same issues of, funding, but then because of where they're at, they just ran into capability issues, right? They're at the end of a dirt road. They've got to be able to get some sort of 4G, and then maybe even 4G doesn't work there. So then they're looking at satellite or some EOFW. So it's definitely been a big issue. We appreciate all the work that you and all the other schools have done to be able to continue to educate our country's children through these very unique and challenging times.
Yeah, it was definitely, schools had to be very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very creative.
We were, and it was even, you're driving to drop off technology, visiting people's houses and dropping things off. And like, we had big plastic bags, we would sanitize everything. We would drive to the house, put it on the step, and contact they would get. It was just such a unique, no one's ever done this. No one's ever been through this. It's such a unique experience. And we just figured it out, overcome and adapt. I learned that in the military for sure. Improvise,
military trait.
Improvise, overcome, and adapt. That's definitely what we needed to do during this.
I love that. I bet there's so many learning lessons that you glean from the military, and I've seen it with my brother who's in the Navy, and he's just like by the straight, everything's like beds made perfectly every day. But I love all of that. One of the last subjects that I'd love to talk about, because Dustin and I do a lot of projects around phone systems and things like that, and everyone has a unique take on how to deploy the phone system, whether PBX, open source, UCAS, whatnot. How do you guys look at the phone system connecting all the sites? How has that been for you during the pandemic, pre, post, and like challenges that you may have run into?
We have an older system now, and it's an open source system, and we have our our voice over IP phones here. It's during the pandemic, we didn't run into many challenges because basically everyone was at home.
Mhm.
One thing we did have to do was we set up we got cell phones for, in each school there's also a site manager, and they're like the front facing person to talk to all the parents, and they do the student scheduling and all that stuff. So the challenge was them being able to still communicate. So our phones, their lines were forwarded to cell phones, and faxes were forwarded to their home computers and things like that, so they could still get the information they needed. And right now we're looking at our phone systems. It's a little bit older. We have our challenges with it. So I guess basically right now is just looking into new solutions for that is where we're at. Slowly looking into new solutions for that.
That's where you deploy. You have all the way till next summer, right? When all the students are out on break. That's when most schools do it.
And the other thing is, most teachers, they're using their cell phones. I mean, we have phones in our elementary school. We have phones in all the classrooms.
Mhm.
At the middle school and the high school, we don't have phones in the classrooms. We have them in like the offices.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So we have like an office, like our school set up where we have 4 classrooms, like say 7th grade has 4 classrooms. There's a big area in the middle, which is a common area. And then there's 2 offices for the teaching teams.
Mhm.
And the phones are in there. But I mean, our teachers don't use them that often. Cell phones are the way they communicate. We primarily use our site managers, like I said, are the ones who use the phones the most.
Yeah.
And maybe our directors, but even then it's like everyone has a cell phone. Teachers give their students their cell phone numbers, and the parents have cell phone numbers, and it's all that. So that's why I think, in the past, like at my other school, the phone system was super important. We needed it. And it was like, gotta have the phones. But now it doesn't seem it's important, but it's for the central administration, for the admin of the high-tech high organization, of course, it's important. And then for emergency messaging and things like that. But yeah, that's basically where the importance lies. But as far as at a user level and things like that, half the time they're not even plugged in. We're like, where's your phone? Oh, in the cabinet. I was like, what's it doing in the cabinet?
That is awesome. In the cabinet.
They're like, please don't plug that in. Please don't plug that in.
Might blow something up.
That is awesome. Well, Brad, this was so fun to be able to get to chat with you, bring you on the podcast today. Love to hear about your story, your experiences. And the thing that I will take even years down the road from today's session is that those soft skills and how you approach your end consumers, right? The people that you're really there to serve. IT, your customer are the teachers and the administrators and all those folks. And I just love that view. I love that the organization has such a great mission that you've bought in on it and your peers have bought in on it. And that you're like, hey, whatever it takes, like, let's go out and make this thing awesome. Like, such an inspiration. We need more companies and organizations like you that have a big vision that people can get bought into and then the employees are willing to roll up their sleeves and do whatever it takes to get the job done. I mean, it's incredible.
Everyone here is like that. The teachers, they put their heart and soul into it because it's just what they're doing with these kids, and the flexibility and the freedom they have to like create these learning environment for their students. It's just amazing. It is.
Yeah, I want to go back in time and go to that school.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. I wish I had this school.
Yeah.
If I couldn't have gone here, I work here. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did the next best thing.
The next best. No, absolutely, Brad. Thanks again for jumping on, being willing to take your time out of your day to do this. And as with educators, administrators, such as yourself, it's they love it. They love the work that they do, and it shows. And I'm sure it shows through the product that the students are putting out with these projects. So again, thank you. Good to have you on. We'll have to do this again sometime and meet up down there in Point Loma, because it's absolutely God's country
place,
down
yeah.
there. It's beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great. If you're ever in this area and you want to come see the school and see what we do, that'd be awesome. Just let me know.
Absolutely. All right.
We'll put that on the list. Thanks so much, Brad. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice hanging out with you here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that wraps up the show for today. Thanks for joining, and don't forget to join us next week as we bring another guest in to talk about the trends around cloud contact center and customer experience. Also, you can find us at adleradvisors.com, LinkedIn, or your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next week on another Cloud Podcast.